BlackBerry AtHoc. So what is it? So BlackBerry AtHoc is an acquisition that we made almost 4 years ago now. AtHoc is a California-based company originally, very, very strong in the US, as you can imagine, very strong in the federal government sector. And it's really a crisis communication system, or critical communication system, as it says there. So protecting people and operations with a critical communication solution. So it's really about notifying people and organizations of situations, not necessarily critical or life-threatening, but any critical notification needs to get out. So perhaps it could be something like your email system's gone down and you want to notify everyone proactively, so your help desks aren't flooded with lots and lots of people phoning up going, oh, I'm not getting an email. And we can also interact with those people as well via a number of different means: text, phone, instant messaging, mobile apps, desktop apps, whatnot, and get a response back from them. So we can then start ensuring that people are safe, or we are aware of their current situation, and based upon that information, take further action according to the business processes behind. So organizations around the world use BlackBerry AtHoc software to communicate and collaborate in times of crisis. We do have some case studies from some of these organizations. They've worked with us to generate case studies. We publish those on our website. I think we call them customer success stories, but they're sort of case studies to you and I. And I would recommend that you go and have a look at those and refer to them, so that you get an idea of how people do use AtHoc for real. It's a software-based solution. It's hosted in the cloud, or it can be hosted on premise as well, or indeed a hybrid of the two. So depending on your organization, depending on where you are, depending on your appetite for the control over your data and where it's located, then you've got a choice there of hosting it in the cloud or on premise, or a combination of the two. Trusted by 2,000 plus organizations globally, state-of-the-art technology, and it's fairly much recognized for the industry-leading security around that process and product as well. And here is a list of some of those customers that are using the solution now, and there's some quite notable ones in there, as you can see. This is slowly becoming more global in its look and feel as we expand outside of the traditional AtHoc market of North America. So you can see there lots of names of organizations based outside, and indeed in the UK, Civil Aviation Authority, HM Treasury, Civil Nuclear Constabulary, so JC Deco are in there as well, as you can see, and other notable names, GWR, Great Western Rail, Microsoft are in there, and there's others as well. So why do we need AtHoc? Well, the world is changing, as I think we're all aware. We're becoming much more global in nature and outlook. People are now working much more in a mobile fashion. People are working from home. We don't all traipse into an office at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock in, clock out at 5:30 and go home again. So we have to try and account for people and their whereabouts, and we also need to keep an eye on the business itself, so maintaining that business resiliency and ensuring the safety of the business, the premises, and the people that work within that business as well. And here are a list of some of the forces that we've identified that can impact that type of organization. Severe weather, so increasing frequency and scale of impact from severe weather. And I think we're probably all aware that over the last few years, incidents around tsunamis and hurricanes and storms, flooding, mudslides, whatnot, have increased around the world, and are likely to continue to do so. So countering the threat of that and the impact upon people and businesses and property is one way that AtHoc addresses those needs. Cybersecurity attacks. Cybersecurity is something that's very much key to BlackBerry and our business going forward. AtHoc plays a part in that we can help mitigate against the threat of cyber attacks as they grow in their reach and sophistication. So we can then use AtHoc to be able to message and notify people within the organization and indeed external to the organization, should we need to, of some threat, and have people take prompt action to try and close down that threat and minimize any impact to the business, and use AtHoc post event to recover from any cyber attack as well. Then we have man-made incidents. So terror attacks and other man-made incidents impose new threats. I probably don't need to go into any great detail, but you're aware of all sorts of threats and issues that have occurred around the globe in recent years. Some of them are terror related, others are just disasters, train crashes, and gas explosions, all sorts of incidents that are essentially man-made, and then we can use AtHoc to manage those as well. And of course, government regulations. So organizations are increasingly pressured to have a duty of care for their staff in particular, and those regulations are becoming law in some cases, and we can use AtHoc to meet the demands of government regulation to account for people. So securely sharing information within organizations has never been more important for those reasons I've given above, and increasingly so. So using AtHoc as a tool helps increase the resilience, operational resiliency of the business. It helps reduce costs as we can quickly and efficiently communicate to people, and obviously paramount to this is maintaining the safety of the people within that business as well. So some of the challenges that we have for sharing information about a business and an incident is accounting for people. So how can we account for our people? Are they safe, and can we operate? So we at BlackBerry are a great example of mobility and mobile personnel, as you can probably imagine. I travel fairly extensively throughout the Middle East and Israel and into Africa and the Nordics. So my company, my BlackBerry business is responsible for accounting for me and my whereabouts. And of course, they're not always aware of where I am. My manager actually lives in Mississauga in Canada. I have one colleague in the European Middle East region, and he lives in Vienna. So on a day-to-day basis, people really aren't aware of where I am. I have a sort of matrix structure with a team of people, account managers and things like that, and I work with some of them, one of them here and there, but they too aren't exactly aware of where I am. Today I'm working from home, but tomorrow I could be somewhere else. So maintaining accountability for people is increasingly difficult in organizations, and AtHoc is one way that we can account for those people. So situational awareness. So something happens somewhere, there's an accident on the motorway, there's a bomb scare in London, something's going on. Do we have real-time information? So obviously we can get information from blue light services, from the television, from the news, but also it's increasingly important that we have awareness from people on the ground, particularly if people are directly involved in a situation. So can we get real-time information from those people, like geolocations, like video, like pictures, that sort of information? Can we glean that back from them? And where do we need to then focus our resources to manage that situation? Can we safeguard personal information? Can we support a global business that's operating around the world? And what about compliance with regulations in different places? And again, AtHoc, we have a great story to meet the needs of the security and scalability of the information that we're working with. And then what about collaborating with other organizations? So none of us as a business operate independently. We're all interacting with others. even if it's on a a frenemy basis. We're acting in collaboration with competitors. Imagine a chain of hotels, sorry, chains of hotels, or hotels in London. They all work together, but obviously they're all susceptible to fraudulent guests that come in and obtain services fraudulently. So perhaps they could share information about that person. Perhaps they could share CCTV information, a picture, and then alert others within the network, and be able to take steps to prevent others being impacted in the same way, and perhaps get the police involved, or whatever it is they need to do to detain that person and stop that going on. So organizations can also collaborate using AtHoc. Think of it as a kind of LinkedIn type service, if you like, for the tool. So, I mean, we just talked about some hypothetical examples, but here's some real customer use cases. There's no names in this one, but they are all taken from actual real customer deployments. So terror attacks, so BlackBerry ourselves, a major global media company, defense organizations activated personal accountability event to obtain real-time safety status of workers and travelers in London, and other previous attacks in Paris and Brussels that have taken place over the last couple of years. So actually, that attack that took place on Westminster Bridge, believe it or not, we at BlackBerry were all of the EMEA team were in a sales event in the Cotswolds, and at the end of that day, when that event unraveled, we had various people traveling back to Heathrow, to the Eurostar network to get back home. And obviously we at BlackBerry were using AtHoc internally to be able to account for those people. So I actually had two people in my car, one from France, one from Brussels, that I was giving a lift back into London to Waterloo. And we obviously got the alerts while we were in the car, and we were able to respond. And one of the interesting features of AtHoc is something called accountability. We can account for others. I was actually driving the car, so couldn't respond, but my colleague that was in the car, she was actually able to account for her safety and her whereabouts, but also do it on my behalf as well. So we can use the accountability feature as a manager or a team leader or colleagues to be able to account for other people's safety as well. Cybersecurity breach, a G8 government victim of cyber attack reduced the time of sharing critical information from 90 minutes to less than 90 seconds. So cyber attack underway, don't use your laptop or whatever it is you need to do to mitigate against that cyber attack and get that information out. Communications outage, typical communication channels went offline. I presume that means email. So we can integrate with non-IP mass communication devices where activated. So AtHoc can actually integrate with things like tannoy systems, point of sale systems, roadside matrices, signage. We can also integrate with fire panels, analog radio networks, and obviously the phone and text SMS systems as well to be able to get messages out. We'll have a little look at a diagram of that later on in the slides here. And another one here for earthquakes. So building inspectors created situational awareness via rich media communication of damaged buildings post Mexico earthquake. So there is a mobile client for AtHoc, and people can go around with the mobile client and check in, and also take photos and video of situations and report those in as well with geotagging information. And then so this is a little bit of an overview of the crisis communication solution. So alert. So I mean, kind of alert's the obvious one. Notify anyone anywhere on any device. So a mobile device. We have applications for all of the mobile device manufacturers and operating systems. We also have a client for our own BlackBerry Dynamics container solution. And there are clients too for the Windows PC laptops and for the Mac, Apple Macs too. So any of those can be installed and receive alerts from any type of device. Obviously, you're dependent upon cellular networks and communication networks to be in place. So as I said, in the previous slide, we can also integrate with other non-IP based systems like a tannoy system. Texas A&M University does this. They have AtHoc plugged into Twitter, they have it plugged into email, text, phone, but they also have it plugged into a campus tannoy system, so they can push out alerts in that way. And interestingly, we were talking with a customer recently that are using some SMS tannoy based system. I'm not quite sure of this technology, but it's essentially a tannoy system that's got a SIM card in it, and you can send broadcast messages to those and have them publish and publicize information. Collecting information, so principally collecting information is using the mobile client on the device. You can see there a geotag location on the device, and we can capture critical information from that device. So again, principally pictures and video. We can geotag that and add a little message and then send it in. And we can use that to trigger an alert as well. We have a customer that has a presence on motorway network in the Netherlands, and they run around, obviously things like debris from that's dropped off a vehicle, or accidents, or the Armco barriers come loose, or something's happened. They can take a picture, send it in, it's geotagged, and that creates an alert to the maintenance teams to then come out and do what it is they need to do. Accountability, real-time visibility into personnel safety and status. So during or pre, during or post an incident, we can get information back from users, again based principally on the mobile device client, as to their whereabouts and their safety. So we can have them report in to say they're safe or they need some assistance, and we can gain that in real time. And then finally, the interagency communication as well. So connecting. So I'm a hotel in London. I've been mugged by someone that's come in and used services, booked a room, whatever it is, run off without paying, eaten a meal, whatever it may be. I can then interconnect with other hotels in the vicinity and let them know with some information, and then they can take steps to maybe raise their security levels and prevent that from happening again in their organization. And so a little bit more detail on this. So alert, provide rich media content, target users via groups and teams, select the types of devices that we want to push those alerts out onto. As you can see, desktop clients, as we were talking about, also sirens, radios, and so on. And as we talked about, on-premise or in the cloud as well. So those alerts are generated by people, so I can log into the system and generate an alert should I need to. From devices, so it could be a fire panel, so if someone hits a fire button, that will also trigger an alert. From other organizations, and we can automate this to a certain extent as well. So off the coast of California, there is an array of sensors for the earthquake activity. There's the tectonic plates there, generates tremors and all sorts of things. They have an array of sensors. We can take an input from those sensors, and depending on the strength of those sensors, the strength of the input from those sensors, we can then alert accordingly. So do we need to alert perhaps people that live near the coast of an increased height in the sea level, or some increased wave, whatever it is that is appropriate to that geography. And those alerts, as you can see, personal devices, radios, sirens, phones, and the general public as well. And we'll have a look at some of that in a bit. And this is that diagram that I wanted to show you. So you can see AtHoc sitting there in the middle. So quite a busy diagram, this, and I'm not going to dwell on it too much. But essentially, we can take input from a manual, mobile, IP-based duress buttons, video analytics. We do have a very interesting example, which is beyond the scope of this call, but based on facial recognition. Triggering alerts. So as people perhaps come into an organization that aren't recognized on a database somewhere, like an employee database, an alert can be triggered and security notified. Access control to buildings, fire alarm systems, weather feeds, as we just talked about, and any other source that we can use that will raise a trigger of some sort can be used to input into AtHoc, and that notification then goes out via all of that busy information on the right hand side, which we've talked about: radios, sirens, digital displays, IP based communication systems, and our own AtHoc NAS network alerting system, which is part of the AtHoc solution for things like email, social networks, and desktop clients, mobile clients. So alert from anything to anything, almost, is the summary on that slide, I think. Collecting information, I'm going to show you this in a minute, but as you can see from the graphics, take pictures, geotag them, and send them in to trigger an alert and take some action based upon that. Accounting, so what's going on during an event, post-emergency accountability. So, for example, terrorist attack, natural disasters, where are the people and where do we need to get resources focused in order to be able to recover from some sort of emergency or crisis as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So we're into recovery and mission continuity at that point. So accounting for staff and workforce, recalling them perhaps into a different premise somewhere so we can restart and continue the business, we can efficiently report on their status as well. Daily mustering procedures, field staff mustering and tracking. So we do the same thing. I told you about the team in the Netherlands that are trotting up and down motorways. There's generally a team leader and some staff that they're responsible for picking litter, cutting vegetation, repairs, maintenance, checking the road condition, bridges, all that kind of stuff. And the team leader generally is clocking in on behalf of those 5, 10 people, whoever they may be, to make sure that the business is aware that they've all turned up and they've all been accounted for, and they're all clocked off at the end of the day as well, because what we don't want to happen in that case is one of those people be involved in some incident and be missed off the system. So perhaps they've fallen down an embankment and twisted an ankle or something and can't get back up again. So we need to make sure that we have something in place to account for them and their missing, their absence, and then we can take an action to find out where they are and what's happened to them and get first responders or whatever it is we need to do there. And as I said, connect, very simple, interconnect with other organizations that use AtHoc in a kind of LinkedIn type fashion. So very simply, I generate an alert. I'm like I said, this hotel in London, something happens with a member of the public that runs off without paying for something. I can then send an alert to other hotels and tell them. And a little bit about the taxonomy of critical communications and where we are on this path. So siloed type critical communications, so simple PA, sirens, text and voice. Send it out. There's no accountability, so there's no accounting for people. We could send that to 1,000 people, and they could be all be incapacitated in some way and not be able to respond, and we wouldn't know. And we wouldn't even know if that message got to them. So relying on text messages, for example, obviously in the time of some sort of crisis, if the network is impacted in some way, then we wouldn't even know that they've got the message. So very simple basic services. And then net-centric services, so desktops and VoIP, we can leverage those kind of technologies to get messages out. Again, we're just increasing the means of being able to send an alert, but we're not really integrating with those people and businesses in any great way. Unified communications as well, so building up on that path. But now we come into the really interesting thing. So enterprise, at the enterprise level, we've got cloud-based services, multi-location, standardization, global reach, and ultimately leading to where we believe we've positioned AtHoc to meet the interactive needs of organizations today. So bi-directional communications, I'm telling you that there's a problem and you can come back and tell me whether you're safe or you need help. Geo-awareness, so geotagging capabilities are built into the system. We can glean geo information from a device and we can then present that on a map for the administration and management teams. duress reporting. We'll have a look at that on the device in a minute. And field reporting from mobile devices. And ultimately, of course, accountability. Where are my people? Are they safe? Can I account for them? So organizations around the world are using AtHoc in all of those ways that we've just looked at to communicate and collaborate in times of crisis. Leveraging the enterprise of things, extending secure communications during a crisis, accounting for personal safety and operational resilience. So thank you for that. I'm going to close that presentation off, and I'm going to show you what the system looks like now. So it is a browser-based system. This is a demo system that we host at BlackBerry ourselves. It's a demo for AtHoc.com. So obviously it's a cloud-based system in this case. And I log on using an account username and a password. Now, the account information can be gleaned independently of any other directory information, or we can, of course, interact and integrate with your directory of choice. Most people, that would be Microsoft's Active Directory, but it doesn't have to be. It could be some sort of SAP type directory, LDAP-based information, and we can integrate with that so that we can pull in all the user information from that directory automatically. And then we log in. Now I've got a demo system here, as I said, and this is the home page, my Hogwarts system. People laugh at that. I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but anyway. And this home information is the usual thing. We've got a menu across the top, so alerts, accountability, users, organizations, and reporting. And then on the home page itself, we've got a some quick links here. So live alerts. So these are the alerts that are currently in progress, and 0 at the moment, but we'll put some up there in a little while. Quick publish. So alerts are really based upon our business processes or business responses, if you like, to situations, and we may want to quickly publish those. And I've got one here that I use for demonstrating snow and ice warnings at the Hogwarts Castle, and I can quickly publish on that. But I can also, go to my alerts menu and create a new alert from here. And there's a far greater list, or an extensive list of alerts based there. And there's a little bit more on this menu as well as to what it is I can do. So that's the quick publish. Live accountability events. So any live events that are ongoing, you can see there's an event here at the moment. Any of those that are live and running, I can see here and click on that. If I click on it or hover over it, you can see some text information, and if I click on it, I get a lot more information about that event. I actually wanted to end it, so once it loads up, I can quickly close it down. Just wait for it to load. And you can see there's information there about the event. This is just a demo one, evacuating shelter in place, sheltering in a public shelter. I'm not in the affected area, so I've responded to that, and I'm just going to end it anyway. So that event would be in the case of some sort of ongoing incident. This event would be running, and people could then be reporting their status according to the choices that are presented here. So if we go back to the home page, that's the live accountability event, and you can see that's gone now. And then recently received alerts. So we've got the concept of checking in now, checked in, sent a message, and so on and so on. And then this is probably a good time to introduce the mobile client. So hopefully you can see I've got a camera running here, and I've got a device. This is an Android device. It's running the AtHoc client. And you can see, I'm sorry that the actual device doesn't show up on the video particularly well, but you can see here, I'll use a pen, get my finger out of the way. You can see here there is, this is the AtHoc client. It's available in the Google Play Store and the App Store on an iPhone, just like any other app. You can just download it and install it. And this is the device, sorry, this is the AtHoc client open. We can connect to the organization, and here you can see this is my organization. I've got a little graphic in there, so I can customize it and personalize it to a certain extent. I can change organizations as well. So I may be, you know, a contractor. I may be available to more than one organizations, and I can quickly switch organizations from the client using the switch organization tool. But I'm currently connected to the Hogwarts client. And then you can see we've got a menu bar here. And I've also got some geo information here. So there's a couple of things. This one is the check-in button. So if I just press on that, you can see the client now tells me that I'm checking in. And in a second, it will say checked in, checked in. So now when we go back to here and just do a refresh on this, it will refresh itself after a little while, but I'm going to just force it through. And now you can see checked in. There we go. And if I click on that, it actually tells you, and I've checked in here a few times over the last few days, hence the number of the number of graphics. It actually tells you physically where I am, and I can actually look at that in more detail on a map. So you can actually tell where I've checked in from. So as people check in, so I'm at home at the moment, it's great, but you know, a couple of weeks ago I was out in Egypt, and I was asked by the business to make sure I checked in and checked out every time I left the hotel and ended up at the premises that I was visiting during the day, and so on. So they had an account of where I was at any one time. Now, the other feature that was on the client that we looked at was the tracking information. So this little icon here gives us information about tracking. So, and I can track my location, and I can track from anything from 5 minutes up to stopping. So I can turn on tracking on my device as well. So in the case of a crisis or an incident, I can, through choice, and this is entirely the user's choice. If I don't want to do this, I don't have to. Turn on tracking, and then the company BlackBerry can track my company, that is not BlackBerry verbatim. My business can track my location and account for my whereabouts in the case of, say, some sort of crisis or flooding or any other incident that's going on. And I can then start tracking. So I'm now tracking my location using the same mobile client. Now, so I'm sure you're all excited and want to see what an alert looks like. So if we go back to the home screen and finish up here. So on the right-hand side here, there's a couple of more quick links. We've got a live map of anything that's going on, not a lot at the moment. Some quick links that we can put here to access some of the features and functionality very quickly. So manage users, for example. And then we've got a little green traffic light there to say the system is healthy. It's just a basic self-check that the system runs, and that light will be amber, red, or hopefully green, and tell us that the system is healthy. We're looking at one organization, Hogwarts, with 2 enabled users, 1 desktop user online, and 2 mobile application users, two devices with mobile apps running on them. And talking of the desktop, you can see here in my system bar, we've also got the AtHoc icon, and then there's some AtHoc information here as well that's available in my desktop client. But when it comes to actually generating an alert, we can go to quick publish. Snow and ice warning, we're going to publish this, and that will take us to a template. Now this template I've pre-built. It's snow and ice has impacted Hogwarts. As we all know, no one knows where Hogwarts is, so I've made a guess it's in the Scottish Highlands and located an area there. Now I can edit this information as well if I wanted to change anything. So for example, the template doesn't tell me if there's any black ice being detected, so just wait for this to load up. And come on. There we go. So the content, snow and ice warning, Hogwarts has been impacted by snowfall. Pre-templated text, as I said. Custom response options. So I can put in custom response options here, so people can then clock back and tell me that they're not in the area, they need assistance. Understood, they're taking precautions. There's a map and a link to further information. And I can also target my users. I've targeted them by location. So the location is actually up there. I'm not going to drill into it from here, but it's actually up there in the Highlands of Scotland, and I'm targeting the users in that location. And I could change the text in there if I want. So I could just say black ice detected. There you go. And then review and publish. And publish. So that's going to publish now, and then I'm back to my device, and in a second you'll see, and hopefully you can hear that. There's now an alarm generated on the device, and hopefully on the desktop you'll also see, oh, my phone's going, sorry, turn the phone off because it's phoned up my phone. You'll also see the desktop client has posted an alert up onto the screen as well. Now we can, oh, Samsung's advertising, we can customize those alerts. So even if the phone is in silent mode, we can override that alert too. We can override that alert with audio or visual, and audio or visual impact as well. So even if people have got their phones in mute, we can override it. And again, on the desktop, you can still see it there. I can post an alert from the system tray and leave that up, and I can repeat it until I get a response, and then I can respond to it. So on the mobile device, I'm now going to be saying, understood, I'm taking precautions, I'm responding to the alert, and that will close the alert down. It will now stop alerting me. And those alerts are now going to go back and be collated by the system. And if I close that, you'll see posted here, we've now got a live alert, the live alert that's running. We've got the accountability event as well, so we can account for those people. And if we click on that alert, you can see there, I'm not in the area, I'm in need of assistance. One person has responded, that was me, of course. And interestingly, if we go to the live map and click on live alerts, you can see, go to the right part of the map. Here is the location. and this is where the incident is taking place. And we can show live accountability events, live alerts, live incoming alerts, all based on the mapping information that we've got. And once we've got that information, we can click into that alert and start then taking action based upon those responses. So where people are saying that they need help and assistance, we can then start responding appropriately. And of course, what those responses are business independent. We get a lot of useful information back. So we know that we've sent 2 alerts, 2 have responded. One says they need assistance. One says understood, taking precautions. So immediately we can now reduce the impact by 50%. 50% of our users are taking precautions, but 1 person is now needing assistance. And we can drill into that and then send further alerts to those users, or pick up a user list. And once we've got that user list, we can then try and contact that person and take whatever action it is that's appropriate to whatever the situation is.